Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. I am your host and beat reporter, and I've been your beat reporter covering the Jacksonville Jaguars for On SI every single day since August 2019, and we're continuing to push forward through yet another draft season together. All right, guys, welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. Today we are talking about the 2026 quarterback class and how the Jaguars could greatly benefit from the NFL falling, in love with it. Obviously, the big part of this discussion, is a bit maybe moot because the Jaguars don't have a first round pick this season. If they had a first round pick, then obviously, they are rooting more and more for, guys like Ty Simpson to have his kind of buzz, as odd as it's been, to keep going. And then beyond that, obviously, there's still layers. I mean, the Jaguars, they have 3 picks in the third round. Any quarterback that goes in the third round, I mean, what if a team, we'll just start right at the bat. What if a team falls to Drew Aller? Third round's when I could see, a team telling themselves like, hey, we can fix it. Like he just seems to me like the quarterback who's going to be graded and ranked higher by teams, I think, than by, most draft evaluators. I don't think he's any good. I just think teams often, see a guy with his size, his profile, and they think they can fix him. And to their credit, hey, that's your pick. Go find out if you can or not. But for example, though, I think him going in the third round would be a boon for the Jaguars. A player potentially slips in that round because a guy who you would have less than zero interest in taking was instead taken off the board because of the position he plays. That's the kind of situation that these teams benefit from every season. And by these teams, I mean, the top teams, the competitive teams, the teams that, like the Jaguars, have their franchise quarterback. They know that they have no interest in, looking at options in this quarterback class. And I think that when it comes to, obviously, the Jaguars in that position, do you hope maybe 56 can be sweetened? I think if Ty Simpson goes before 56, which I would expect him to, I think he probably goes top 15 or top 20. I think that obviously, I don't think he's one of the 56 best players in the class. So that would obviously bump a player, maybe down a spot. Maybe make a guy available for the Jaguars who, had Ty Simpson's not been a quarterback, would not have been otherwise available for Jacksonville. But I think the most likely scenario is, like I said, that Ty Simpson goes well before 56. And yeah, the Jaguars, it'll be nice that him and Fernando Mendoza go before their pick. I mean, in a way, you can take 54th, 55th best player in the class at 56th, maybe, if everything falls right, if you play your cards right. Because of the lack of first round pick, they just have nothing invested in the Mendoza, train of thought. Him going number one, it seems wrapped, sealed, delivered, set to go, but Jaguars don't pick for 50 plus picks after he goes off the board. So that's already factored in a bit. And like I said, Simpson, I'd expect him to go before the 56th pick. But what about after them? Who can the Jaguars hope, like I said, maybe can be a third round pick and simply give the Jaguars more and more chances to have guys slip down the board a few spots, maybe more than they should, and to give the Jaguars chances to get steals, in terms of however you want to rank value, whether it's consensus board, whether it's your own evaluations, whatever. I think Obviously, the very first one was Garrett Nussmeier. I think you look at him, not this past season, but the year before. There's definitely, I think, a lot to like. I think he looked like a top 50 pick at quarterback last season. Obviously, had a really rough year this year. He's talked about everything that he went through, injuries and all that. I think it's probably unfair to, paint too much of a picture based on what you saw from him this season. But he obviously needed a big year this year to improve, his stock and to take it to a certain place. Has NFL bloodlines, because of his dad. I think if teams can look past, the injuries and focus on, the positive tape, it wouldn't shock me to see a team pick him in the third round. I think he's better than, this might be too much of a take, but I think he's better than Tyler Shuck was coming out of Louisville. That's my personal belief. I'm not a Shuck guy. I'm not a Shucker. But if the Jaguars manage to see that happen at any point, like I said, 3 picks in the third round could absolutely benefit from that. Drew Allen, we already talked about him. Personally, I wouldn't take him there, but I think that if a team, just falls for the size, the arm, like I could see Sean Payton absolutely wanting to draft this guy. Not to say, I expect the Broncos to. It's just, I expect that kind of coach, the self-appointed almost quarterback gurus. They can be the ones who can unlock him. Carson Beck, a lot of people considered him a potential first-round pick earlier in his career. It obviously, I don't think has panned out like that. But, former Jacksonville kid, obviously. Can he entice a team to pick him in the third round? That would be massive for the Jaguars. I think if you can get first 5 quarterbacks taken in the first 3 rounds, I think you consider a win for the Jaguars. If it's first 4, I don't know if I consider it a win. You kind of shrug your shoulders at it. First 3, yeah. First 2 would obviously be horrible. And then just Mendoza would obviously be unideal, but that won't happen. All that we really do seem to know, though, is that Mendoza and seemingly Ty Simpson are going to be drafted fairly early. After that, who knows with this quarterback class? People can evaluate it in all sort of ways. And the quarterback market and how aggressive teams want to be for it change year by year, depending on the quarterback class. And we see teams get desperate because of the position. I'm sorry, there's no way Michael Penix and J.J. McCarthy and Trey Lance are first-round picks otherwise. Some of the other ones, I missed on Joe. I thought Justin Fields was his first-round pick. I missed the hell out of that one. Okay. The 2024 draft class, that quarterback run never should have happened. In my opinion, there were 3 first-round quarterbacks in that class. The other teams overspent. Seems like at least 2 of them have already realized what terrible mistakes they made. I don't know. It Denver, McCarthy's obviously been better than Penix and McCarthy. No, not McCarthy. Good goodness. Bo Nix has obviously been better than McCarthy and Penix. Will Bo Nix continue to look as good when he starts making significant money, though, and is no longer a value? I think that's a fair question to ask. And I think ultimately, it's going to be on these NFL teams to answer the tough questions that they have at quarterback. But the Jaguars, they have their tough questions already answered. They got their guy. Now what the Jaguars can hope for is hope that the rest of the league falls for this draft class. Because if they do, the Jaguars could stand to benefit in a big, big way.